Now, where were we? From our research, a social security number is linked to a fund in the public and a fund in the private. The public and private, some say, is a ledger and accounting, that is, a debit and credit. What is a fund? A bottom, the bottom, foundation, groundwork, from French, fond, a bottom floor ground. Also a merchant's basic stock or capital, from Latin, fundus, bottom, foundation, piece of land. From pi, root, bottom base, source also of Sanskrit, foundation, bottom, Old English. Lowest part, sea bottom, meaning stock of money or wealth available for some purpose, is from 1690. Sense of store of anything to be drawn upon is from 1704. Funds, money at one's disposal. So basically, that's what a fund is, right? You put money, meaning you stock of money or wealth available for some purpose. It don't actually say what the purpose is, but obviously it's agreed upon the people that agree to put the money in the fund, because everything is based on contracts. So let me go forward. Oh yeah, let me go back to commerce, because I didn't explain that. So everything, when you read this definition, it says interchange of goods or property, trade, especially trade on a large scale by transportation between countries or different parts of the same country. It says trade, trafficking, merchandise. It also was the name of art. So commerce. Just think of the action of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Everything's being exchanged of goods. Everything is a trade. You're giving property. So when you start getting to the definition of what property is, you'll see. But this is just, a little head start for people that need to understand what your security, your social security number, and basically what is acting as in commerce. So this is my interpretation. This is how I comprehend it. And maybe it'll make sense to you that way, so that you can start utilizing the information. Because there's different things out here as far as what they say, accessing the credits from this and that and all that. But it's all about understanding contracts and how to create them, honestly. And then also claiming them. But I'll get into that another time. Alright, it says a fund, right? So, stock of money or wealth available for some purpose. It says, does this make sense to you? Every time you work, you add to the Social Security Fund. The Social Security Administration agency is acting as a holding company. What is a holding company? A holding company is a business entity, usually a corporation or limited liability company. Typically, a holding company doesn't manufacture anything, sell any product or services, or conduct any other business operations. Rather, holding companies hold the controlling stock in other companies. Although a holding company owns the assets of other companies, it often maintains only oversight capacities. So while it may oversee the company's management decisions, it does not actively participate in running a business's day-to-day operations of these subsidiaries. A holding company is also sometimes called an umbrella or parent company. So if we go back to securities, if you know, then you know that stocks are securities. So it says rather holding companies hold the controlling stock in other companies. So the stock would be a security, and the security is what? Go back to the definition. It's a document held by a creditor as evidence of debt or property and proof of a right to a right to payment. So if a holding company is holding a contract between your company and their company, they're holding it as the creditor, and they're entitled to what? Money. That's what it says. That's what a security is. it says a document held by a creditor is evidence of debt or property and proof of a right to payment. So that's why all these things are securities, because the damn definition says so. Not because the person that's answering the phone is saying it is, or the CEO when you send them a private administrative, when you try to utilize your due private administrative process, not the judge or the magistrate or the minister in these, these low, these public plays, such as that's called courtrooms. They're not going to tell you that it's a security. You got to prove it's a security. You got to prove that whatever they're doing is fraudulent. You got to bring evidence. And most times, the evidence will come with you creating the private administrative process when they fall silent. And go forward, though. A holding company is a type of financial organization that owns a controlling interest in other companies, which are called subsidiaries. The parent corporation can control the subsidiaries' policies and oversee management decisions, but doesn't run day-to-day operations. Holding companies are protected from losses accrued by subsidiaries. So if a subsidiary goes bankrupt, its creditors can't go after the holding company. Understanding holding companies. A holding company typically exists for the sole purpose of controlling other companies. Holding companies may also own property such as real estate, patents, trademarks, stocks, and other assets. Does that not look like what each state is doing? Holding all of your assets, such as real estate, your patents, your trademarks. Don't you give all that stuff to the government? Stocks, don't all that stuff, all of it has another company name on it. You don't have the name of your trust on it. Simple stuff, you know what I'm saying? Get control of your contracts. This structure serves to limit the financial and legal liability exposure of the holding company and of its various subsidiaries. It may also depress a corporation's overall tax liability by strategically basing certain parts of its business in jurisdictions that have lower tax rates. So, I mean, ideally also this would be for someone that, you're operating, trying to come up out here, man, and get your piece of the market share of these trillions of dollars out here. Because if the federal corporation is in debt trillions of dollars, then it is in credit trillions of dollars. Because the ledger of accounting, when you make a deposit, there's a debt equal of that deposit. So if it's a debt of $1 trillion, then it's credit of $1 trillion. That's just how accounting goes. The structure, it says businesses that are completely owned by a holding company are referred to as wholly owned subsidiaries. Although a holding company can hire and fire managers of the company it owns, those managers are ultimately responsible for their own operations. Holding companies can also exploit their subsidiaries by forcing them to appoint chosen directors or forcing the subsidiaries to buy products from one another at higher than market prices. Isn't this what you see all the time out here? Are you paying attention to it, or just because they're not saying it in the media, that these government entities are holding companies? They're not telling you that. But when you read the definition, it's about the actions. It's not about what you say, it's about what you do. So if you have the actions of a holding company, wouldn't that be a holding company? So you got to see through the deception. Like, men and women are very deceptive. We have that ability to be clever like that. Words are very schematic. Words are very creative. You can use words to manipulate. You can use words to seduce. You can use words to incite rage, emotions, things like that. So just because, they say Genghis Khan, they used to say jump and they'd get down on the ground. They used to throw their opponents off by saying one thing but doing another. So, you got to stop thinking like the common person out here, you know what I'm saying, with what's going on with everything that you're learning. Because people will say things like, have you done this or does this work? It's not about, what I'm doing. It's about if it's going to work for you. Now, I understand what you may mean if somebody's trying to give information about operating a particular way. But you got to understand that the things that you do, like when you start pushing this paperwork and things like that, you will get different responses. You may get a better response because of a situation you may be in. But if someone comprehends and you don't, you may be better off because you may be in a better financial space at the moment. So try to just, use common sense. Just deal with faith instead of fear. Ain't none of this stuff that we doing out here going. It's nothing wrong. It's nothing evil. It's nothing bad. It's just all you're doing the right thing, which is controlling your affairs. Now, as far as with this is just understanding that a holding company gives power and control over other companies. So anyway, it says types of holding companies. All right, so let me get back to this. It says holding companies can exploit their subsidiaries by forcing them to appoint chosen directors or forcing subsidiaries to buy products from one another at a higher than market prices. They may also force subsidiaries to sell products to one another at below market prices. In some cases, holding companies can even force their subsidiaries to lay off large sections of the workforce or plunder their acquisitions for sellable assets, known as vulture capitalists. These strategies can have the effect of inflating the holding company's overall numbers at the expense of the subsidiary. What do that sound like, man? Don't that sound like a recession? Don't that sound like inflation? Like, just make sense of it. I'm not saying that you lean on the fact of using a social and, I gave my social, they owe me money. Nah, but understand that that's what's happening. When you give them the social, they become the creditor. So you cannot necessarily be upset. You just gotta, now that you have the information, you gotta know what's going on. Because that's literally what's happening. In the definition, it tells you. See what happened when you give them the social number? Now they hold the card. It's like they're holding it now because they're putting it on their paperwork. And you agree on the paperwork to pay the money. So, if you never heard that before like that, that's what's going on. You give them the social, right? When they ask for it, it's going on a piece of paper. So now that becomes a contract. They hold that number now. They hold that security. Not literally, but since you gave them that number, and that number is tracked back to the social security card, then now they're the holder of the card at that moment. It says types of holding companies. Holding companies fall into different categories depending on their business operations. Some only exist to hold a single subsidiary, while others may be engaged in other business operations. The types of holding companies are explained below. Pure holding companies. Don't that sound like a pure trust? A holding company is one that only exists as a vehicle for ownership of other firms. These companies do not participate in any other type of business. Mixed holding company. A mixed holding company is one that has its own business operations in addition to managing its subsidiaries. Another word for this is a operating company. An immediate holding company is a company that owns other companies but is itself owned by another entity. In short, these are holding companies that are owned by another holding company. You hear that? A holding company owned by another holding company. Don't that sound like the United Nations that holds the other nations, right? Or the United States that holds all of the states, or the states that holds all of the birth certificates? Come on, man. Like, just pay attention. Simple shit. It's the actions, not the words. the actions, what it does, the attributes, the characteristics, the moving parts. That's what defines what a thing is, what a man is. Like a man, you will see what a man is. Just because somebody say they're a man, I don't mean that. But a man has actions. Actions that you can see. A woman has actions that you can see. Dogs, birds, they have actions. So that's why you call them what they are, because you see their actions. A holding company is a financial vehicle for owning and controlling other assets such as real estate, stocks, or companies. Using a holding company creates legal separation between the assets and the owners and reduces the liability for the owners if one of the holdings encounters financial trouble. The bottom line, a holding company is a type of business entity that has a single purpose, owning other companies. Some holding companies are large conglomerates with arms in many different industries. Others only exist to manage a single subsidiary. Holding companies can help protect their owners from losses, or they can also be used to reduce tax burdens. So you out here, you either a holding company or you're an operating company, man. It's really that simple. It says, does the setup of a holding company look identical with Social Security Administration? And going even deeper, doesn't it fit the characteristics of the United States Federal Corporation? United States means a federal corporation. This is out of United States Codes 28. It's Title 28. Section 3002. This is where it's at. It says a federal corporation, an agency, department, commission, board, or other entity of the United States. Then I go down to here. It says operating company, a company that makes a good or produces a service that it then sells to customers or clients. An operating company contrasts with a holding company whose main function is to own other companies. Emphasis on own. Is your straw man not treated as if it is owned by these various companies that command payment? So, just think of it for what it is, man. With the words, with the definitions explain the functions of these different agencies that you see out here. Like, it's really that simple. It's black and white. It's clear that a holding company is these agencies, right? But then they're held by another company themselves. But a trust is the ultimate holding company. This is why you see people having a hard time when it comes to one, understanding it or getting it through that you have one. Or like if you're trying to get something set up, they try to lead you to a domestic holding company, because the domestic holding company is still held by the higher holding company, another holding company, which would be the state of or the United States or whatever. So if you create your own holding company, which would technically be a trust, an irrevocable express trust or pure trust, right? Then you would have complete control over your contracts. You know what I'm saying? So when you when you get registration under these states and all this stuff, what you think you doing, man? I just explained the definition. Go back, read it, listen to it. It tells you that these are holding companies that's holding operating companies, right? Your straw man is the operating company, and you're basically attached to the straw man because you don't have anything making the separation until you have a trust, right? Until you have a trust that's controlling that name, which is technically a damn business, then you're going to be the corporation. You're going to be the operating company that's owned by other businesses, that's owned by other corporations or owned by other companies. It says a operating company, a company that makes goods or provides a service that it then sells to customers or clients. An operating company Contrast with a holding company whose main function is to own other companies. Holding company whose main function is to own other companies. Emphasis on own. Is your straw man not treated as if it is owned by these various companies that command payment?